This is Mike Tatarski, host of the Vietnam Weekly podcast and author of the Vietnam Weekly newsletter, coming to you from scorching Ho Chi Minh City at the moment. Like my previous episode about the Vietnamese New Wave documentary, today's show was in some ways in the works for a long time. Several years ago, my partner and I ate at a restaurant in Taipei called NKU, where we struck up a conversation with the owner who mentioned he had a chef friend working on a Vietnam cookbook for Phaedon, the coffee table book publisher. Side note, sadly, NKU has since closed. It was a really great place. Eventually, we crossed paths with the chef in question here in Ho Chi Minh City, and that cookbook comes out this Wednesday, October 22nd. Today's guest is Anaïs Cadau Van Manen, author of Vietnam, the Cookbook, which features 445 recipes from across Vietnam, including dishes from ethnic minority groups. She's also the founder of Yeshi, the casual Taiwanese restaurant with 2 locations in Ho Chi Minh City that some of you are probably familiar with. We talked about Anaïs' culinary background, how she came to work on the cookbook, learning over 400 recipes while traveling across Vietnam to access the country's incredibly diverse cuisine, splitting time between working on the book and running a restaurant, and more. As always, if you have any comments, feedback, or guest ideas, get in touch at matatarski@gmail.com. Let's get to my conversation with Anaïs. Anaïs, thanks so much for coming on the podcast.
Hello.
Yeah, I know we've been talking about doing this for a while. Good to have you here. So I thought we could start by maybe, I think some listeners will certainly, at least in Saigon, will be familiar with you and who you are. But I was hoping you could kind of share a bit about your kind of culinary background and also how the idea for Vietnam, the cookbook, started.
Okay, so my name is Anaïs, as you know. uh, I was born in Paris and grew up in Vietnam, and then I went overseas to learn how to cook. And I worked in Paris, London. I was like the head of research and development for Barra London, and then I also moved to Bogota and lived in Brussels, and then just came back here 2 years ago to write this cookbook alongside other projects. So the cookbook came from the fact that my friend Leandro was also wrote the Portugal cookbook from the same series. So Phaedon, our publisher, has a series they call it the Food Bible, where they would focus on a country and all the recipe of that country. And every year they would select a few countries. And 3 years ago it was me. So Vietnam was hot enough to have a book about it.
Yeah, and then sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I was
okay. So, I mean, we can get a bit more into the book, but obviously I know you grew up here in Vietnam, but as you just laid out, you worked internationally for a while and in a bunch of different cities and with their own national cuisines. Had you been cooking Vietnamese food all throughout those years, or did you have to kind of return to it at some point?
I think Vietnamese cuisine is kind of something that I would cook at home. I would live in Paris and London, and actually I would always eat Vietnamese food when I visit my uncle, or I would cook at home because I would miss it. As I grew up in Vietnam and I ate Vietnamese food when I was growing up, I kind of felt homesick in Europe. So that's why I would continuously look into Vietnamese cuisine and continue to try to learn about it. And then I started doing pop-ups in London, and it's always had a Vietnamese angle to it. So yeah.
Okay. And now the book, I mean, which is coming out around the time this is released, is, I mean, I think you called it like a food Bible series. And obviously just the name, Vietnam, the cookbook, is quite comprehensive. I think it has over 400 recipes in it, which is astonishing. I mean, I know Vietnamese cuisine is exceptionally diverse, varies by region and province and what have you, but that's a lot of recipes. And I think you traveled a lot around the country to research this. Could you kind of walk people through, what was that process like to get all these recipes?
Okay, so actually 450 recipes is not, it's like a very small amount of what Vietnamese cuisine is. I think I started finding more than 600 titles, but then I had to cut down because we didn't have enough space in the book. But then as I was traveling, I discovered even more dishes. So I think it's like actually there's so much more out there, and this book is just kind of like an introduction, I would say.
Mm.
Um, and basically, I started doing this cookbook with by first focusing on family recipes. So I had 1 year where I was just cooking and developing the recipes in my home kitchen with the help of my nanny, of another chef, and all these family friends. And then afterwards, I wanted to introduce the reader to another aspect of Vietnamese food that not a lot of people know about, which is the fact that in Vietnam we have 54 communities. Like we have the Kin, which are the majority, which I am, but then we also
Hmm.
have 53 smaller communities living across Vietnam. So even though I couldn't cover everybody, I tried to travel as much as possible and learn as much as I can from these communities because they use ingredients that I've never heard of, or they would use the, yeah, they would find product and they would use it differently than what I would be used to.
Mm.
So it was really an eye-opening experience to see that there's so many cultures in just a country, in just one country, you know?
Oh, certainly, yeah. I mean, I know. Well, I come from the U.S., which obviously is quite huge. So, I mean, Vietnam is not small necessarily in terms of size, like physical size, but smaller, I suppose. So, certainly, that diversity is pretty amazing and sometimes a little overlooked, I guess.
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
when it came, sorry.
No, go ahead. Sorry. I was just agreeing to what you were saying.
Right. So when it came to, I mean, again, I know you grew up here and whatnot, but when it came to getting into some of the, these ethnic minority communities or some of these provinces maybe you hadn't been to before, or maybe didn't really know people, how did you kind of, how did you meet people? How did you get into those spaces?
So I had a lot of help. Like I would have a fixer, or I would reach out to a travel agency, or I would follow somebody on Instagram, or I would actually even ask on Instagram, does anybody know anyone here? So I think it was a mix of small actions, and for books, for example, because I base a lot of my essays in the book on real books. So I would go to the social science university in Ho Chi Minh, and then I would ask the librarian or people there to lend me their books. And there's a lot of collector actually in
Mm.
Vietnam who have a lot of historic food history books. Yeah, and so I think, and you would see in the book when I in my acknowledgement that there's been so many individuals who've helped made this possible because I think I'm turning 34 this year, and I think it's a baby age in terms of like what Vietnamese food represent. We always learn how to cook from the elders, from moms, from grandmothers. Yeah, so I was really lucky to have all these connections.
Yeah, and I guess how much? I mean, did you go to like every province, or of course, I know the province names have all changed now since you started this process, or not all of them, but a lot of them. But did you go? How much did you travel?
I think I didn't travel enough. We went to Nghệ An, Huế, Kon Tum, Pleiku, Đà Lạt, Phan Rang, Chavin. So yeah, a few, but I think
Mm,
there's so much more deep down, especially in the northern mountains of Vietnam, because it's a bit difficult to access. I could
sure.
only go to Hà Giang, but there's like
Mm.
amazing places that I've always wanted to go, but I haven't had the chance to. So I think, yeah, I think there's still so much to learn. Um, and if you could go to the mountain, you should. It's amazing.
Yeah, I totally agree. I've been to Hajiang, I think 3 times now, and then
Mm-hmm.
Cao Bang like once, lucky enough, but more to see up there. It is an amazing part of the world. So I guess what were some of the biggest, surprises or most memorable aspects of the research? I mean, that could be dishes you discovered or people you met, and anything like that.
So I think the first thing that I learned is that authenticity is a very difficult thing to find because in a way everybody has their own interpretation. Even the like every Vietnamese family will do a dish differently because that's the way that they're used to it. It's their own recipe, but it doesn't mean that it's any less Vietnamese than another person. So I think we always look for authenticity, but uh food is so personal. So we need to, like, throughout the whole book, I learned how to cook the same dish differently by different families. So I think it taught me to like be open minded. And then in terms of ingredient, like again, when we were in the mountain, we got to eat bamboo worms. So that was super interesting. Or when we were in the Central Highland, we learned how to cook with buffalo skin that the people would dry. They would dry the buffalo skin, and then afterwards, whenever they need it, they would grill it and then pound it until it's like it breaks, and then add it to a stock or like a yeah, and that will become more gelatinous, and it will give like a different
Hmm.
texture to your broth, and you can eat the
Okay.
skin, which is I've never had it before, and I thought that was really cool too.
Yeah, I haven't had that. Haven't had that either. Interesting. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting what you say about authentic or authenticity. I know that word is gets thrown around a lot with I don't know, tourism advertising and restaurant PR, what have you. But it is kind of like, well, who who decides what authentic is? That is a good question.
Yeah, it's a different it's a question with no answer, I think. You know?
So Vietnamese cuisine, certainly compared to 10, 15 years ago, is pretty well known internationally. I mean, I think you go to any or almost any major city, at least the ones I've been to, in almost any country, there will be at least a Vietnamese restaurant. I mean, obviously, a lot of places have huge Vietnamese communities. I mean, you mentioned Paris, but obviously some parts of the U.S. as well. The cuisine's gotten pretty popular, but of course, in many places, like everyone knows pho and banh mi, but kind of beyond that, probably not a whole lot. So with this book, having 450 different dishes that you said could have been hundreds more. Like, what do you hope people take away from the book?
Um, I think first of all, I feel like it's just trying to introduce people to more varieties of things. Even talking about pho, pho is not just one dish. In the north, they will cook it different from the south. So,
Hmm.
for example, in the book, I've included both different recipes, like the northern style and southern style. And then you can also have pho stir fried, pho deep fried, pho sour pho. So I think it's just like any cuisine. I like to show people that there's regional differences, you know?
Hmm.
And then on top of that is that the way that we eat is very varied. So the book is divided by chapters, which has the family meal, which is, for example, main, sides, and broth, which is the Vietnamese traditional way of eating. But also there's a full chapter just for seafood mong ốc, something
Hmm.
that I think not a lot of people know about it, but we love it because Vietnam is a coastal country. So we have so much seafood. And one of the things that people love to do is go to Quán ốc. We have shop that just specialize in seafood, and you can order by the kilo, by the gram, and you can order in the different sauces. So I think that's an aspect that hasn't been very known worldwide on Vietnamese food. So I hope to kind of basically, I would hope that the reader, after reading this book, when they come to Vietnam, they would be super excited to try all these different dishes.
Yeah, yeah. That makes sense. And I guess I'm putting you on the spot a little bit here, but are there any like particular favorites you have, or a few that people should really maybe try to make themselves or check out in the book?
Oh yeah, I love that. So okay, so there's one dish. I don't know if it's a bit difficult to redo it, but it's chả cuốn from Phan Rang. So fell in love with it so badly because I even brought the specific rice paper over to Saigon to do it. So everybody know summer rolls. And so this is a sort of summer rolls, but from Phan Rang, and they would have this huge sheet of rice paper, and inside they would have um, rice paper crisp. So this rice paper, but deep fried, so it's crispy. Then they would put like boiled egg, fish cake, or grilled meat, and then lots of herbs. And then they would roll it, and it's like they roll it like a giant burrito. So it's a bit bigger than you usually summer roll, and they serve it with like a peanut fish
Mm.
sauce. Oh my god, it's so good. It's like, it's fresh, it has the crispy, it has the protein, and that's what I want to eat for lunch basically, because it's light. And yeah, if you could make it at home, I would highly recommend it. I think obviously we are a land of noodles. I think that's the biggest chapter I have. I have like maybe 50 or 60 noodle
Oh wow.
dishes, because in Vietnam we have, yeah, that's there's even more than that. But I don't know. I'm a pro eating noodles for breakfast. So I hope people would do it. They bake a big batch, they eat it at dinner, and they can have it for breakfast. It's such a good way to wake up. Do you eat noodles for breakfast?
Sometimes. I mean, I don't eat. I will say, like, I mean, I know pho is a stereotypical dish. I don't eat that frequently. But certainly
Mm-hmm.
when I think when I'm traveling outside of Ho Chi Minh City, I'll have. There's so much international food here. It's easy to get caught up in other cuisines. But certainly when I travel outside of the city, happy to have noodles for well, breakfast, lunch, dinner, you name it. It is
Yeah.
a great base for a dish. So yeah, you mentioned at the start that you came back here a couple years ago, obviously to work on this book, and also, which by the way, it's cool to see this coming to fruition because I was in Taipei 2 or 3 years ago, and we ate at a restaurant called NKU, which Google is telling me is closed, which is sad if true. But we were talking to the owner, the chef.
Oh
I forget his
yeah.
name. My apologies, but he mentioned his friend who was writing this cookbook about Vietnam, and it turned out to be you, and we crossed paths eventually. So small world.
Lihan. He's so
Yes,
nice.
yeah, that was.
He's my twin brother, in the sense we're both born on the same day.
Oh wow, nice. Well, it was a great meal there. Anyway, but so another one of your projects here is Yeshi. You're the kind of casual Taiwanese restaurant, which I think your second open location opened in July or so. Correct me if I'm wrong there. But
Yeah, yeah.
so anyway, so how was that? You spent all this time spent on Vietnamese cuisine. How did you kind of come to open a Taiwanese restaurant?
I think, doing a Vietnamese cookbook is something that I've always wanted to do, because that's how I feel connected to Vietnam, and how I feel Vietnamese. But as I moved here, I also want to be part of the landscape. And part of the landscape is finding ideas and projects that could also bring something new here, and which I think would work really well, or where I think people would enjoy it. And when I came back, um, so I used to work at Bao London, so that's how I first fell in love with Taiwanese food. And when I came back here, I thought that there was a market for boiled dumpling, because here there would be a lot of steamed dim sum, or they would have boiled wonton, but they don't have so much boiled dumpling or fried dumpling like the Taiwanese style. So I thought that it was good opportunity to do it. And on top of that, um, what I wanted to do in Vietnam was to open a restaurant that was affordable, so that anybody who works in the restaurant can actually come and eat there. And so my staff actually stays some time and come and eat there, because we wanted to make something that's can vary from 35,000 dong to 400, but you have that mid range so that everyone can come, because I think the F&B scene is developing, but also the F&B scene is developing, but the buying power hasn't follow. Like, a lot of people are still, their wages are not as high as we think they would be. So you need to So to create a restaurant, you have to have that in mind and see which is the audience you want to eat. So I thought by doing so, I wanted to just create a really cool environment to work in and to have good food, casual, fun. And I think we've kind of achieved that. And especially I have a great partner with TLC in the lab. So they're the same, but they've been super good at developing that idea. And now with having two restaurants, I've also taught my chef to do their own R&D. And I think it's even better because, they are Vietnamese. So they know the palate. And as much as I think for a restaurant to be successful, even though we want to be, like I said, again, authenticity, right? You can try to be as authentic as you want, but at the end of the day, we're not in Taiwan. We are in Vietnam. So
Yeah.
our audience are Vietnamese. So what you need to do is find a way to bring them new food, but in a way that they can connect to it. So that's what we're aiming to do with Yoshi. We want to be Taiwanese, but we also want it to be for the Vietnamese. So now my chef, they are doing the R&D and they have that in mind. And I think some of our new seasonal menu, like this one in Taodian right now, has been developed by my chef completely. I gave them a few points, and a few ideas to start on, but then they went and did it themselves. And I think it's so delicious. And I'm so happy to see that these young chefs developing dishes, and they've never been to Taiwan, but they're getting it. Starting to get the vibe, and because we read and they eat the food. So yeah. Anyway, what was the question? I'm just going on. Sorry.
No. All really interesting. No, it's really cool to hear. I mean, I will, I think the food's very good.
Thank
So
you.
it's exciting to see that things seem to be going well. Yeah, no, I just asked how you decided to go and open a Taiwanese restaurant. So you did answer that and more. Much appreciated. But how did you, was it difficult balancing? Obviously, I know a restaurant takes a lot of work. As you mentioned, you have partners, so I know it's not just you. But how did you balance, that alongside producing the cookbook?
I think I would do it like morning cookbook, afternoon restaurant.
Okay.
So that was in the morning I would just develop all the dishes, and then for the book test, and then afterwards if I have leftover I'll bring it to the restaurant. The staff would eat it, and then we would start our other work. And then when I had to travel, I'm really lucky to have chef who I trust, so I could lead them, chef and store manager that I trust. So they would handle the restaurants and also my partners. So yeah, I think it's a big teamwork effort. I think with this model, it's all about bringing people up. So I learned to not micromanage people so much. I think if there will be error and mistake being made, but it's a learning progress. If you don't micromanage, the people would have more accountability as well with their work, and they would try even harder. And so that's the environment that we created at Yoshi to work in. So I trust them, and if something goes bad, then after that we discuss about it and we see how to improve. But I think the whole idea is to trust and build that trust.
Right. Yeah, makes sense. Well, I definitely recommend any listeners in Ho Chi Minh City check it out. As you said, I know the first location's in Tao Dien, and then the newer one is in is it District 3? I haven't actually been
Yeah,
to that one yet.
you should come.
Okay,
We
I
have
know.
like a 40 item menu.
Okay,
We have like a couple of same dishes, but it's quite different as well.
okay,
So
yeah.
yeah, bring Alexis in there.
Now I need to go. So just a couple more questions, I guess, kind of with back to the cookbook a bit. I mean, is that something that just fade on? Like, do they like update those over the years, or is that kind of like something they do one time and then that's it for that country?
I think they do one time. I think the Silver Spoon, the one about Italy cuisine, because that one sold like 1 million copy. They did like a few re-edition with more recipes or so on. I'm not sure Vietnam will have will sell 1 million, but if it works, then they will get a second edition. Sometime they would do the version of this book vegetarian. So they would do
Oh,
like, Vietnam but I think it's a lot of work, Mike. I,
I
I don't see myself going through the same emotional roller coaster again.
yeah, I can't even imagine. I mean, I struggle sometimes just making one recipe at home. So
Do you cook at home these days?
I do, yeah. I'm like the cook in the house, basically, since my schedule is a little more flexible. But I'm decent at following recipes, but if I have to like go off script, that doesn't usually go very well.
I think, well, we should cook together soon.
Yeah, that would be fun. Okay, so then I guess in closing, kind of, I know this book's wrapping up. It's about to come out, and of course you've got your second restaurant, so I'm sure things are busy there. But do you have any other like projects in mind or things you'd like to try?
Yes, actually, because I'm also the culinary director for Ampersand here. So they have Bayan, Running Bean, Esta, and so on.
Ah, yeah.
So we're
Mhm.
developing some projects together. So that's really exciting, and yeah, I think I think what I love to do is to just R&D dishes. I think that's what I enjoy the most. And also I think the F&B world in Vietnam is that it's in the beginning of like a really fun ride, and there's so much opportunities here. And if we're lucky enough to have traveled and being overseas, I think now is our duty to kind of like come back and work with people and make it happen. I don't know. I don't want to sound too much like, oh, I went back and I'm bringing you my knowledge, which is totally not what I am trying to say. I think I learned so much
Sure.
about the way people work here. But I think there's a big opportunity for collaboration
Mm.
and to create a lot of F&B project. But they don't even need us, like I've seen so many local projects that's amazing over
Oh
the
yeah.
years. So yeah, I don't want to sound like a, I don't know, maybe you should cut this part. Uh
No, no. I think everyone understands what you mean. No, I mean it's everyone's learning from each
mm,
other, and yeah, I agree. I mean, I mean, I've been here like 15 years, and often get asked like, oh, what's changed the most? And I think, I mean, there's obvious answers like skyscrapers and new bridges and roads and whatnot. But I honestly think like F&B is one of the biggest, especially here in Ho Chi Minh City. I mean, I know Hanoi and some of the other cities have some exciting restaurants, but definitely seems like here is the center of from Vietnamese cuisine to many other international cuisines. It's a pretty amazing place, and there's always exciting new places opening.
yeah, it's like, because the country it's developing at a really fast pace. So everybody is excited, everybody wants to do things, everybody wants to eat things. So in terms of opportunity, that's what I think is happening. It's that it's vibrant, you know? There's there's something beautiful about here, is the resilience, and that everybody just want to do things.
Yes.
And I think, yeah. And it's relatively easy for anybody, local, VietQ, and Westerner, to start something, And I lived in certain country in Europe where it was a much more difficult affair to start anything, because there's so much admin, or there's so much taxes. And here there's opportunity for everybody.
Yes. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I think that's a good a place as any to stop. So Anaïs, thanks so much for taking
Thank
some time out of
you.
your obviously very busy schedule. You've got a lot on your plate. No, no pun intended there. I'll be sure to include a link to the book in the show notes. And yeah, thanks again for coming on, and looking forward to checking out the new Yeshi soon, hopefully.
Thank you so much for having me. Also, I need to see your Lego cat. Yes.
Okay, I'll.
I've seen it on TV, but I need to see it in real life, and like, because I've always wanted to get
Okay,
it.
okay, we can make that happen.
Thank you, Mike,
Of
for
course.
having me. And yes, come visit Vietnam, guys. Whoever listens, who listens, who are your listener? And I'm just going on.
It's okay. People in Vietnam and outside. So anyone not here should definitely come visit. So thanks again. That's it for this episode of the Vietnam Weekly podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Please rate or review the show on your preferred podcast platform and share it with your friends. See you next time.